Hey, in this video, I'm going to show you how to set up N8N self-hosting in just 3 minutes, and then I'm going to show you 5 other ways to do so as well. This works if you are an N8N beginner, an N8N pro, or anywhere in between. I'm going to walk you through the process and even sign up and pay for the services so that you guys can get as unadulterated view of how all this works as possible. If that sounds good to you, let's get into it. The first and simplest way to self-host is using Render. For those of you that are unfamiliar, they call themselves the fastest path to production for a reason. Now, I'm not affiliated with them, but I'll show you how you can get up and running with Render in just a couple of minutes. This is easily the simplest way to go ahead and do so. So first things first, just create an account over here. Now, I already have an account, so I'm just going to put in a fake one here, fake email address, and the fake password. We're going to click Create Account. They're going to ask you to verify your email next. Now, since I've already gone through and done all of the sign up, I can then go and then sign in. So I'm going to sign in with my account. After you are done verifying your email, you'll be taken to a screen that looks like this. It'll say deploy a web service, static site, Postgres database, or explore all service types. Now, unlike a lot of the other videos here, I'm actually signed up to the service. I'm actually going to be paying when I need to, but I want to let you guys know that these videos tend to be invalidated pretty quickly because all of the platforms that we are signing up for self-hosting on, they all tend to have different UIs and UXs, and they change the way that their dashboards look and stuff. So instead of paying attention to the very specific buttons I'm clicking and stuff like that, just try to understand what I'm doing more generally. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to find an area in the page that says deploy a web service, and then go down to where it says existing image. What you're going to need to do is you're just going to paste this in verbatim. So N8N has a deployment method called Docker. Docker is just a very simple and easy way to grab like an image of the N8N install off of the internet. So if you just Google, N8N Docker, like I'm doing here, you'll get a page that looks something like this on the Docker Hub. And if you just scroll down, you'll find a URL that looks something like this, docker.n8n.io/n8n/n8n. This is just what you copy. Then you go back to Render and just paste it in where it says image URL up here. Then you click connect. I'm going to leave everything else as blank, and I'm going to click on free for hobby projects. In reality, what you're probably going to want to do is you're going to want to launch a starter, a standard, or a pro plan, depending on your usage. If you are doing thousands of requests a minute, pro is probably sufficient for you. If you're just getting up and running and maybe have like 2 or 3 clients or 2 or 3 systems that you're maintaining that send workflows every few minutes, starter is sufficient for you. If you do free, just note that they'll automatically spin down the service. This can be kind of a pain in the butt, but I'll just leave it at that. Once you're done, it's going to go through, it's actually going to spin up the Docker image, and you're going to set up your server. So let me cut in a second. By the way, it was on this website that I first found what N8N actually means. It was written by the creator himself, and he says that it means nodemation, and it is pronounced as N8N. Apparently the reason why was he just didn't really like typing a ton of characters, so he said N8N, nodemation. Good enough. Okay, and then after a couple of minutes, you're going to get a message that looks something like this with editor being accessible in this local host. All you need to do is go up here to the link, give it a click, and then you'll have the ability to set up your owner account. So that's what I'm going to do here. And once I'm done, I'm going to click next. This will then send a verification email using my server, actually, which is interesting. Do some fun little onboarding. Heard about y'all through Google. And then we actually have the ability, and this may not necessarily be the case when you guys are watching, but as of the time of this recording, we have the ability to get a bunch of paid features for free with a license key. So I've already done this on a bunch of other ones. I'm going to skip it. But yeah, now N8N is here. We could start any workflow we want from scratch. This is running entirely in our own server. You'll see that because it's a free server, it's going to be a little bit slower than usual. But all hotkeys, everything that you could possibly want works. And because you're using a Docker image, it's going to be up to date. So this is by far the simplest and easiest way to get up and running with this. I should note that if you want to, this isn't the only way to set up N8N on Render. And we've also glossed over a fair number of the configuration options that you have. If you want to check out some of those configuration options, feel free to check the N8N Docker page. There are a variety that allow you to switch the database that you're using by modifying environment variables and changing basically a bunch of things related to encrypting and so on and so forth. If you also look up the N8N community environment variables and just pump that into Google, you'll find a bunch of different settings that people use to optimize their N8N installs. But that's just beyond the course of this video. The second simplest way to set up N8N in a self-hosted environment is using Railway. Now, for those of you that don't know, Railway is very similar to Render in that it allows you to very quickly and easily spin up servers and spin up databases for those servers. But our sign up here is going to be a little bit different to what we were doing before. We're actually going to have to continue with GitHub. For those of you that are unaware, GitHub is a way to host your code or repositories that you've worked on. Make a long story short, all you need to do to make sure that this method works is spin up a GitHub profile, and I believe you have to add some authentication. So github.com. Let me just open this in an incognito tab. There you guys can see what it would look like when you do not have an account. Then click sign up over here. Add your credentials as necessary in order to get that account up and running. Then all you have to do is go back and authorize your Railway app. This will give you $5 in free trial credits as of the time of this recording. And now we have an account here that I just have to accept a bunch of terms for. Then move on to deploy a template. The one you're going to want to click is N8N with workers. It's currently the most popular one on the platform. Then just type in deploy. And basically what's going on now is we're using our $5 in free trial credit to spin up an N8N instance with workers, which are just a little addition. And I believe it's a Postgres database with Redis. I don't really know how you pronounce that. But the specifics of the implementation aren't necessary to know or understand until you actually get up and running with N8N. So the purpose of this is just to make sure that you have an N8N self-hosted instance. We can actually access it using a public URL. So let's cue up some Jeopardy music and let's see how things go. At a certain point, you'll get a page that looks something like this. All of these will turn green. This is the actual deployment process, and it'll say it's applying a bunch of changes. You'll get updates in the right-hand column here that show you that various deployments were done. So in my case, it started with Redis, then it went to Postgres, and it's kind of working its way backwards over to the primary N8N instance before finishing off with the worker. Eventually, all of these nodes will have green little check marks associated with them, and all I have to do is go back to primary, then give this URL a click. It'll open up your N8N instance, same as we had before. And I can go through and I can add all of the information that I want. And because it's a new instance, obviously, it's asking me to go through the onboarding again. And so this is going to happen every time that you set up a new instance. It's going to offer to give me paid features for free forever. And then voila, we're basically good to go. Again, we have our N8N instance up and running. The third simplest way to get N8N up and running in a self-hosted environment is using DigitalOcean. They have a one-click N8N install template, very simple, easy, and straightforward. You just type in DigitalOcean into Google, and this will be one of the first hits. I'm going to sign up to an account here from scratch, show you guys what it looks like. So just pumping in my email address and my password. I like DigitalOcean's design. Very nice. It's now going to do some bot verification, just to make sure that I'm a real human being. And once we are in DigitalOcean, we're going to have to go through our confirmation sequence. And we have some onboarding that I'm very quickly going to get up and running. And then once we're here, you do have to enter in some payment details. So in my case, I'm going to enter some payment details just to secure the account. I'm going to do that off screen, of course. Okay, great. And now we are registered in DigitalOcean. And in order to get all this stuff up and running, it's very, very easy. All I'm going to want to do is go over to the DigitalOcean, I believe it's called their marketplace or their store. So go back over here. Let me go, I think it's marketplace. There we go. And what we want to do is we want to click on or search for N8N. Be a one-click install. All we're going to do is create an N8N droplet. It's now going to connect back to our account. We can select the specific server area we want. Just select whatever's closest to you. It should automatically do this. And then it should automatically select an Ubuntu version. In my case, it's 22.04 on the marketplace. I'm just going to use the basic plan. It's going to try and get you up to the peak, but I'm just going to go down to regular. And then I'm going to go down to $6 a month or 9 cents an hour. Actually, 0.9 cents an hour, I should say. Now you're going to have to create a root password. So I'm going to do this here. Looks like it needs to be a little bit longer. One uppercase letter. Oof, man, this is tough. Oh, geez. Why don't we just go YouTube? Okay, that's rough. So I'm totally going to forget that. So YouTube 3. That sounds good. Paste that puppy in there. I'm going to store it very securely on YouTube where everybody could see it. And then we're going to create the droplet. Now this is going to do the whole deploy procedure, similar to how we, what we've seen before. Very same idea. It's just going to obfuscate or obscure some of that data from you. DigitalOcean, I find, is just a little bit less, I don't know, they put that stuff a little less front and center. It's also an older platform versus something like Railway or Render, which is focused a lot more on, obviously, user experience and being modern and stuff like that. So we're going to give it a few minutes and let it finish. Okay, and then your Droplet should be up and running. The issue in DigitalOcean, and the reason why this is like third instead of first, is because you can't just access it via the IPv4, the IP address. Paste it in, you'll have some issue. It will refuse to connect. So what you have to do instead is you have to actually add this to a domain using DNS. What I'll show you guys how to do here is on my own, leftclick.ai. I go to advanced DNS here, then add an A record. The host is going to be N8N. The IP address is going to be this, and I'm just going to try and do this as quickly as possible. So I'll click 1 minute. What this is going to do is it's going to provide me a publicly accessible URL at n8n.mydomainname.ai that routes to this address here. So if you don't have this, you're going to have an error every time you try and access the IPv4, which is the IP address. So I'm going to give it a minute, and then I'm going to access n8n.leftclick.ai. After that, all we need to do is go to console here, give that a click. It'll open up this window, which looks pretty scary and make you feel like a computer hacker. All I have to do is press enter in the domain name, enter in whatever the email address you want to use for their encryption protocol is. And then I'm just going to not set up a time zone. It's actually going to go through and run some additional configuration options for us. So here it is. It's now building this out. Once you're done, it'll say installation complete. Access your new N8N server in a browser to continue at this address. So I'm going to copy that over. Go back here, open up a new tab. And as you can see, we now have the owner account screen, same as we had before. We can set it up. It's going to ask us some onboarding info. And voila, you can now go in and then, muck around on their canvas again. The fourth way to set up N8N in a self-hosted environment is using Heroku. Now, if you just Google Heroku, spelled Heroku, you'll get to a website like this. Heroku is definitely a lot older of a platform. You can see they have some updates that are coming, so maybe that has changed as of the time of this recording. But we will type in N8N Heroku. What you want is this GitHub repo here, or a GitHub repo that looks something like it. Now, GitHub actually has a native deploy to Heroku button. So what you can actually do is you just click this button and then it'll deploy it to Heroku. They've done some updates over the course of the last 3 months. I should note that every time we're doing this, we're getting slightly different versions of N8N and stuff. But if you click on that button, you'll then be taken to Heroku, where you can log in to an account, which I have yet to do so. So I'm actually sign up to an account. That's what I'm doing here. No company. So enter your email again. And I am in the United States. Let's say Delaware. Now creating my account. So we're going to check my email like I did a moment ago. Okay, now we have to add a bunch more info. And it looks like you have to make your password super long. Okay, now we have to enter some two-factor authentication. I don't really know what I want to do here. One-time authenticator. Yeah, that's probably what I'm going to do. I then have to go and download an app called Authenticator from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. The way that this works is it'll basically just generate a code based off of the current date and time multiplied by some secret key thing that Heroku has installed. Then what it'll allow you to do is you're actually going to be able to scan it using something that looks just like this. And basically you put in your little QR code in that center area here, which is what I'm doing. And it's just given me a verification code that I can now pump in, which will be this. There are multiple different authenticator apps. You could use whichever one floats your boat. I like using the Google Authenticator one, just simpler and easier for me. Okay, now we have some more onboarding questions just to go through. When this puppy finally loads, that is. Am I domiciled in Italy? No. Awesome. Okay, great. So now once we're signed in, we can go back to that N8N Heroku GitHub install. Click deploy to Heroku, and it'll actually just do that one-click deploy for us. I'm going to call this N8N Nick, common runtime, and I'm going to dismiss this. And then the only things that we have to do is, we have to change the encryption key. So we have to change it to whatever the heck we want. I'm going to do, I don't know, Nick is super awesome and jacked. All true. And then the app name is going to be the Heroku application name, which is N8N Nick. So N8N-Nick, cool. And we click deploy, beautiful. As this is a one-click deploy, all of the configuration settings are just up on their own. So as you can see, there's some config vars here. These are the same things as the environment variables and render, and then Railway that we saw earlier. But I'm just going to let it play and we'll see what happens. Great. You're going to get a bunch of green check marks as per usual. And then we're just going to go view. Now, because we don't have HTTPS installed basically, and Heroku is just a little bit behind on this stuff, you're probably going to get a dangerous site. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go visit this unsafe site down here. It'll actually take you to the page. And as you can see, there's no real difference in the, that's okay. There's no real difference in any of the safety here. It's just like, it's your own website. They're just lacking the protocol that we'd be interested in. So yeah, voila, we are now on our website. We're gonna go software, business owner, myself, less than 20 people, and then Google as per usual. And we got some paid features, and then voila, we can now start from scratch all over again with our N8N install self-host number 4. The next way to self-host N8N is actually just do it on your own computer using Docker. You can do so on like your laptop, or maybe you have some server rack or something like that. I don't necessarily recommend this unless you know what you are doing, but I'm putting it in here just for completeness' sake. What you're going to want to do is just head over to docker.com. It'll allow you to download the Docker desktop version. Now I have an Apple Silicon Mac, so I'm going to give this a click. This is then going to go through the download process. Once I'm done with that, I have my docker.dmg image. Again, this is going to be different if you're running a, I don't know, like a Mac or a PC or something. Make sure to download the right one for your version. In my case, I'm copying this over to the applications folder, which takes its sweet ass time. Then after that, you can just search for Docker, whatever way that you are currently interacting with your file finder. That's how I do mine. It'll verify the package. Yes, I want to open the package. That is why I double clicked you. And then you can accept and then use these advanced settings. In my case, I need to enter my password to do so. Okay, great. So you can sign in, go through the whole rigmarole if you want to, like creating an account and stuff. I'm just going to skip all this. And what you want is up here where it says search, you're just going to paste in, not that, just look for N8N. So N8N IO/N8N is right over here. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to click pull. That'll go through setting this up on your own computer, basically. And once you've pulled it, you're going to want to run it. Now, I should note that you can do this through terminal as well. You don't need to necessarily do this just through like the Docker desktop. Docker desktop's just a much easier way of getting up and running with this. And then you're actually going to want to instantiate this by clicking run. And when you do so, it'll ask you for some optional settings. I'm going to do 5, 6, 7, 8 right over here. Volumes, host path, environment variables. I'm just going to leave that as is, and I'll just do N8N-nic. And give that a run, and you'll see that my computer is a lot faster than a lot of the other ones we've been using, so it's already done with the deploy. If you click 5, 6, 7, 8, you'll now be at localhost 567.8.setup, which is, again, my own server, and now I'm actually running N8N directly on my computer. So because I have way more server resources than, most of those ones that I could rent out realistically, I bought like one of the swankier MacBooks. Everything here is going to run way, way faster than, if I were to do so using some sort of cloud instance. You also need to keep in mind, I don't have to send and receive data. It's actually just all locally here. I could see this making sense for people that want to play around with like higher end applications. Just keep in mind that this does complicate the process quite a bit because now, your webhook URLs are all local. Now, if you want to find a way to expose, right? If I go back here, if I type webhook, but you'll see that we can't currently access this. So if you want to, I'm actually going to go back to my Docker container. I'll stop it. If I click start here, if I click delete here, so we're going to want to find the N8N IO latest again. N8N IO this one. We can pull it if we want, but in my case, I'm going to click run. What I want to set the webhook _URL to this. And then the host port, I'm just going to leave at 5678. We'll call this N8N-nic again. So now when I run this, after it gets up and running, I'll have access to my local host set up again. So let me just go through the rigmarole of the sign up. And now if I need to find a way to automate this, just given how many times I'm signing up to all these. No, thank you. Now if I start from scratch and I add a webhook URL, what you'll see here is it automatically puts in this address. Now, this still isn't enough to make it accessible. What we need to do is we need to find a way to pass in requests from N8N-nic.leftclick.ai to our local N8N instance. And that specific thing is beyond the purpose of this tutorial. Essentially, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to set up NGINX, which is basically an HTTP web server that makes it so that when you send a request over to that address, it'll automatically forward it over to your local host on your machine. But there's a ton of great documentation written on all of this stuff on N8N. Feel free to check out configuration, environment variables, and then if you just type N8N Nginx right over here, it'll show you guys, well, there are a variety of like answers direct from the founder of N8N himself that walk you guys through what that process looks like. The last way I'm going to show you on how to set up N8N in a self-hosted environment easily and quickly is using Hostinger. For those of you that are unfamiliar, Hostinger is very similar to the other tools that I mentioned here. They just kind of hold your hand through the process a little bit more. So if you just type in N8N and then Hostinger up here, it'll take you to this page. There's a one-click VPS template, which will get you up and running quickly. These are the prices on a 24-month term, but when you click on it, you'll actually be able to select a smaller term if you want. So period 24 months, let's go down to 1 month here. I'm going to click on continue. It's obviously then going to ask me to create an account and do all my pricing information and stuff, but let's do this one. Okay, good to go. We're now going to click get started. That's going to take us to our H panel. H panel is just like the Hostinger panel. And we have a guided setup here. I'm going to choose just the default options because they walk you through it a fair amount. The template that I'm looking for is N8N. So that's the one that you're going to want to do. It will launch, it will ask you to set up some malware scanning BS. I never do that. And then you do have to set up a root password of some kind. It'll be the same sort of idea as before. That looks pretty good to me. Oh, 12 to 50 characters. Can I just double this up? Yes, I can. We have the VPS host name. We have an SSH key, which I don't really need. Just going to save all this stuff. All this looks good to me. I'm going to click finish setup and it's going to run through the process now of setting up my VPS. After that, you'll get a message saying the VPS is ready. We'll click manage VPS here. It's going to obviously ask us some fun stuff. Thank you for the onboarding. Then we have to do is head to panel access, click on the login URL. And this will take us to our lovely, hopefully familiar at this point, N8N signup page. And then from there, you can proceed through the onboarding as I've done 5 times already. Click get started, skip the paid features trial, and then you are now good to go. We are in the canvas. I hope you guys appreciate it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video showing you how to set up self-hosting in both 3 minutes and then using progressively longer and more complicated methods. I guess Hostinger is probably less complicated than self-hosting actually, but we'll see. If you guys have any questions about the self-hosting setup or how any of this stuff works, just drop them down below. And if you guys have any questions or suggestions for future videos that you guys want me to do, then please add that as well. I get most of my video ideas and requests at this point from my audience, so it means a lot every time one of you guys chimes in. Aside from that, please like, subscribe, do all that fun YouTube stuff. Check out my communities, Maker School, Make Money with Make, if you want to make money with automation, and I'll catch you on the next video.